Urban Meyer, I don't believe I'll coach football again. As gets set to coach his last game at Ohio State, many still wonder if it'll be his last game coaching, period. In fact, arguably the most noteworthy moment of the early December press conference announcing another retirement came when Meyer was asked if he's finished coaching. Meyer said, although he later added, when asked about his future in the profession, I believe I will not coach again. Even that last assertion, though, came with a qualifier that certainly left the door open in the minds of many observers. Fairly certain. Ahead of his first ever appearance in the Rose Bowl in what's presumably his last game ever as a head coach, Meyer was again asked about his future and reiterated that he doesn't believe he'll be on the sidelines beyond the New Year's Day game. I believe this is it, the 54-year-old Meyer said, by way of, when asked about his coaching future on ESPN's College Game Day show Saturday. Once again, that's between myself and my family, but I don't believe I'll coach football again. I feel like I am leaving on my own terms. I've been a Buckeye since I've been this big. I love this area. My dream was to hand it off to someone who I think is not only great but I think he'll make us stronger. When he, twice, while at Florida, were cited as part of the reasoning behind Meyer's departure. Fast forward nearly a decade, and health issues were again cited when the Ohio State head coach. For years, Meyer has dealt with that puts and sometimes during the Indiana game earlier this season. At his retirement press conference earlier this month, Meyer pointed to the headaches as the primary impetus for his decision. Saturday, Meyer again touched on the health aspect of his departure and how the uncertainty of the risks attached to continuing his career impacted his decision. I've dealt with some significant issues this year, really since 2014, Meyer said. When the word risk comes out of the doctor's mouth, that checks your whole heart a little bit. And I asked the question, what exactly is a risk? And, the doctor said, we're not sure, coach. Over the weekend, Ohio State athletic director confirmed that Meyer next month. The specific details of Meyer's duties in his new role haven't been laid out, at least publicly. Of course, there's also the much-discussed Meyer will be teaching as part of his post-retirement career. Number 1 Alabama began its run to a second straight national championship and its sixth of the era exactly where it left off from last year's title game, with a long throw from two, the same players who threw and caught the astonishing rainbow to beat Georgia last January. Hammered in a 1-yard touchdown run 6 plays later, and the Crimson Tide was officially off to the races. Alabama's Heisman runner-up returned to the ultra-efficient form that made him the favorite for most of the season, while in company harassed Heisman winner unlike anything he has ever seen, allowing the Crimson Tide to race to a 28-0 lead just 17 minutes into Saturday night's Capital One Orange Bowl. Murray and company eventually got their sea legs under them, but by then it was too little, too late. With a 45-34 victory over the number 4 Sooners, Alabama advanced to yet another national championship game on January 7 in Santa Clara, California. The Tide will once again meet Clemson, earlier today, for the 4th straight season, and the 3rd time in the College Football Playoff National Championship. It will be Alabama's 7th national championship appearance in the past 10 seasons. Alabama scored touchdowns on its first 4 possessions, a string of offensive perfection that saw the Tide rack up 239 yards on 25 plays. Tagovailoa pushed Alabama up 14-0 with a 10-yard dime too, but the emblematic score came on a 27-yard toss to on a play that was designed as a dump-off but became a thundering shrine to Alabama's physical dominance over its Crimson counterpart when the Tide running back collided with Oklahoma safety at the goal line, forcing him to be helped off the field. Tagovailoa finished the game 24 of 27, all 3 incompletions were officially scored as drops, for 318 yards and 4 touchdowns, while Jacobs totaled 158 yards and a touchdown on 19 touches. Meanwhile, Murray saw a level of pressure on his first 2 dropbacks that he has never seen before in his life. After a 3-yard keeper to open the game, he was sacked by on 2nd down, then sacked again by on 3rd down. Oklahoma's first 3 possessions ended in punts. By that point, Alabama held a 21-0 lead on the scoreboard and a 191-0 edge in total yards. Murray and company joined the game after that. A 4-play, 75-yard touchdown drive put the Sooners on the board at the 11:48 mark of the second quarter, and Oklahoma finished the game with an Oklahoma-like 471 yards of total offense, the most gained by an Alabama opponent this season. Murray finished the game 19 of 37 passing for 308 yards and 2 touchdowns while rushing 17 times for 109 yards and another score, showcasing a mettle that this season has not asked him to show while at the same time never pulling Oklahoma back in the game. After beginning the game by falling in a 28-point hole, OU pulled back within 11 at 3 different points but could get no closer. After a 49-yard Murray pass to at the 3:03 mark of the third quarter pulled Oklahoma within 31-20, Alabama went 75 yards in 9 plays and just under 5 minutes to go to inch back ahead at 38-20. When Murray hit for a 10-yard score to pull his team within 38-27 at the 8:31 mark of the fourth quarter, Alabama went 46 yards in 5 plays, pushing its lead to 45-27 on a 13-yard strike from Tua Tagovailoa Award winner at the 6:08 mark of the fourth quarter. And when Murray scampered in for an 8-yard touchdown run at the 4:23 mark, Alabama successfully ran out the remaining 263 seconds to advance to yet another national championship game. When it comes to college football Twitter accounts and their troll game, Citadel may not be the best, but it certainly doesn't take long to call roll. Last month, the FCS program traveled to Tuscaloosa to face top-ranked Alabama. In the previous 2 games, Alabama had pitched shutouts against both LSU and Mississippi State. In its game against the Crimson Tide, the Bulldogs scored a second-quarter touchdown, a fact that they gleefully pointed out on Twitter while also reminding the Tide's 2 previous foes that. In that same game, Citadel held mighty Alabama to 7 first-quarter points. Fast forward a month and a half, and Oklahoma allowed 21 first-quarter points in its college football playoff semifinal matchup with Alabama Saturday night in the Orange Bowl. Of course, the Citadel football Twitter account quickly chimed in on that development as well. In the Citadel-Alabama game, the teams were tied 10-all at the half. At halftime of the Oklahoma-Alabama game, the Tide holds. Color us surprised, and exceedingly disappointed, that Citadel's Twitter account has yet to trumpet that fact. Alabama's offense has played to its potential, as expected. But it was the Crimson Tide defense, angry after a month of hype for their counterparts, that dominated the first half of Saturday night's Orange Bowl, allowing number 1 Alabama to jump out to a 28-0 edge en route to a commanding 31-10 halftime lead over number 4 Oklahoma. Oklahoma won the toss and chose to put its defense on the field first, and Alabama immediately punished them for it when hit, the same connection that won last season's national championship, for a 50-yard gain. Converted a 3rd and 5 with a 15-yard reception, putting the ball at the OU 5-yard line. He then appeared to fumble the ball away at the 1, but the play was overturned upon review and he barreled in for a touchdown on the next snap. It marked the 41st time in 48 tries an Oklahoma opponent found pay dirt on a red zone penetration, the worst ratio in the country. Trailing 7-0, and the Oklahoma offense took the field for the first time, and went 3 and out. After a 3-yard keeper on first down, Murray was sacked by on second down and engulfed by on third. After S punt, a short one, just 35 yards, Alabama knifed 45 yards in 7 plays, with 2 completions of 9, 13 and 11 yards, setting up a 10-yard scoring lob to on 3rd and goal and putting Oklahoma in the danger zone at 14-0 less than 10 minutes into the game. Oklahoma managed to achieve a first down on its second possession, but a 5-yard loss by and 2 incompletions to forced another Seabird punt. Tua hit for a 40-yard bomb 2 plays later and all of a sudden the Tide were in the OU red zone again. After 2 touches put the ball at the 1, Harris powered in for his second score, putting Alabama up 21-0 at the 1:33 mark of the first quarter. To that point, Alabama wasn't just shutting Oklahoma out on the scoreboard. The Crimson Tide led in total yardage 191-0. Oklahoma pushed into positive yardage on its 3rd possession but, sensing any shot at a comeback hung in the balance, with 10 seconds to play in the first quarter, mind you, decided to go for a 4th and 4 from his own 48. Murray's pass was incomplete. Taking over in Sooners territory, Alabama needed only 5 plays to push its lead to 28-0. On a 3rd and 6 from the OU 27, Tagovailoa hit a wide open on a swing route, who ran untouched until he demolished Sooners safety at the goal line, who had to be helped off the field. Down 4 touchdowns, Oklahoma's offense finally got off the mat. Keyed by a 39-yard catch-and-run completion to fullback, Murray pushed the ball to the Alabama 2 with a 32-yard strike to, allowing Sermon to put the Sooners on the board at the 11:48 mark of the second quarter. Sparked by that score, Oklahoma's defense forced its first stop, a 3 and out, no less, allowing the Sooners to take over at midfield, but Murray threw incomplete for in the end zone on a 3rd and 5 from the 8, forcing a 26-yard Seabird field goal and pulling OU within 28-10 at the exact midpoint of the second quarter. Alabama leaned on Oklahoma's forgiving run defense on the ensuing drive, consuming 7:01 of the remaining 7:30, but a false start prevented from going for a 4th and 1 from the OU 15, forcing a 38-yard field goal. In a pair of stats that tell the story, Murray was 6 of 13 for 122 yards, while his Heisman runner-up counterpart was 15 of 17 for 224 yards and 2 touchdowns. Murray led all runners with 46 yards on 9 carries, barely edging out Jacobs' 9 carries for 45 yards, though Jacobs also caught 3 passes for 47 yards and a thundering touchdown. Oklahoma will receive to open the second half. Clemson might just have this college football playoff thing figured out. The number 2 Tigers trounced number 3 Notre Dame 30-3 in the Cotton Bowl on Saturday, turning the first meeting of undefeated teams in a semifinal into a rout and booking their third national championship game appearance in the last 4 seasons in the process. After a slow start in the first quarter that gave their opponent just a glimmer of hope, squad seemed to flip a switch like they have so many times in 2018 to turn on the Jets. Leading the charge, as difficult as it was to comprehend for some, was none other than a pair of true freshmen. QB showed why he was inserted into the starting lineup earlier this season by throwing for 327 yards and 3 touchdowns while making big throw after big throw down the field. A lot those passes wound up in the hands of fellow freshman who was terrific in hauling in 6 catches for 148 yards and a game-breaking 2 scores. Sophomore added in an acrobatic touchdown reception just before halftime too, while tailback put the final nail in the coffin with a 62 touchdown up the sidelines in the third quarter and finished with 109 yards in the game. Needless to say, it was not the performance that Irish head coach envisioned, nor will it be one to quiet down the critics of the program after yet another dud on the national stage. While the team showed flashes on both sides of the ball, especially in the first quarter, it just wasn't enough to contain the dam from breaking open against an opponent that has proven to be one of college football's truly elite squads this season. QB was pressured on nearly every drop back and threw for 160 yards and an interception, doing most of his work scrambling around and picking up a few first downs with his legs. While the offense had to abandon the run due to the score in the second half, they couldn't find much success on the ground either way and was lucky to get 54 yards rushing against a defense that still looked terrific by any objective measure. The season should still be considered a success in South Bend, but the thud of an ending with everybody watching on no doubt stings quite a bit. The campaign is not over yet for &Co, however. The Tigers are headed back out west to take part in the national championship game at Levi's Stadium and have their eyes firmly on bringing another CFP title back home with them. There are precious few programs operating at the level Clemson is at the moment, and they'll have a shot at winning it all against either number 1 Alabama or number 4 Oklahoma after a dominant display at the Cotton Bowl.